It'll be pretty unusual to see house prices falling away when the unemployment rate is 3.4% and set to go lower, and people are going to, at some stage next year, allow themselves to feel a relatively high degree of job security. I think we're maybe denying ourselves that at the moment. Hi again, everybody. Now that we can see the data coming out, such as in the survey I do with REINZ, showing that the housing market hit a bit of a wall in November, the interest rates going up quite sharply over the past 6 months, banks are restricting credit quite a bit, we're going to start to see a few people coming out of the woodwork and saying, right, she's all over, Red Rover, we're going to see house prices falling away. And in fact, I've already seen one person saying they think that house prices are going to fall by 20% in Wellington. Now, I certainly agree that Wellington is quite overvalued, but I definitely don't see prices falling like that. I do think there could be a few years when prices are relatively flat, as happened for about 8 years leading into 2016 in the capital city. But there's a lot of negative factors out there which signal to me that the comment I've been making over the past few months that we are in the end game for the boom in house prices over the past 18 months or 10 years or even 3 decades, it says to me that the boom is basically over. We're going to be settling into, let's say, a more normal pattern for the housing market. One where we're going to, for instance, see the number of listings going up, and that's something we can already see happening using data there at the end of November. Now, because you're going to start to see a few of these doom mongers come out of the woodwork, in my Tony's View weekly publication for December the 2nd, I ran through a couple of lists. The first was a list of 17 reasons why the housing market is now going to slow down. The other one was a list of 19 reasons why it's not a crash. And I'm just going to run through some of those 19 factors here. And if you're interested, you can just go to my website, tonyalexander.nz, and have a look through the rest of them and give each of the factors there your own personal weighting, your own degree of importance for each of them. Now, when it comes to the housing market, a key deciding factor is what's happening in the economy. Most of us have a fairly good outlook for our economy over the next couple of years, with good prices being received for the stuff that we export overseas, lots of things to be built, and in particular, a strong jobs market. It'll be pretty unusual to see house prices falling away when the unemployment rate is 3.4% and set to go lower, and people are going to, at some stage next year, allow themselves to feel a relatively high degree of job security. I think we're maybe denying ourselves that at the moment. There's 165,000 migrants and their families next year are going to be able to maybe get themselves residency and be able to buy a property. That's something quite relevant for up in Auckland. Banks over the past few years have used high test interest rates when giving somebody a mortgage. So even as interest rates rise, they may not rise to the extent that the banks have required people to work out, their debt servicing calculations. We've also got construction costs rising, and that naturally will make people keep looking at the stock of existing listings and bidding there. There's also a lot of frustrated buyers, people who want to buy, but they've sat back from the property market over the past 6, maybe 12 months because of a shortage of listings. As listings rise, they will start to come forward again and maybe feel confident that there is a reasonable chance if they spend a few $1,000s assessing a property, they may actually be able to buy it. And maybe one more factor there, inflation expectations. The inflation rate is 4.9%. It's set to go higher. When people think the inflation is going to be high, they naturally gravitate towards assets which tend to rise in price as overall inflation is high, and that includes property as well as shares. So look, the housing market, I think it's hit its peak. We're going to have something more approaching normal through 2022. And like I say, there are a good number of supporting factors out there to offset some reasonably strong negatives, the credit crunch and the high interest rates. All the best out there.